Welcome to TJ Walker Interactive. This is the part of the show where you get heard. You get to ask your questions about any public speaking, media training, PR, good or bad instance you want to talk about. We take your questions and listen to your comments. You can type them in right now in the chat box. We're live. You can also type them in later if you're watching this on demand on YouTube or at tjwalker.com. You can even call us, 212-764-4955. Here with my colleague, Mike Bako, Jennifer Wallerstein. Mike, what are the questions?
Well, we'll turn right to the TJ Walker Interactive blog and a comment from your Mitt Romney posting from the other day about running for president in 2012. And James Gold in the comment section wants to know what you think Romney's chances actually are, and two, that he thinks it's so much of an ego trip. And taking a broader view of an ego trip and people running for political office, what do you think is the motivation for a lot of people? Do you think it's public service, public good, or just getting their name out there, trying to reach the highest office and trying to get their face out in the media?
Well, with any presidential candidate, it's a combination of things. I mean, you don't run for president because you're completely selfless and have no ego. But I also don't think that the great leaders of our country or of any country are all about ego. It's a combination that you have to have a healthy blend of both. Now, specific to Mitt Romney, what are his chances? He did announce earlier this week that, yes, again, he is looking at running next time. No big surprise there. Romney has many strengths. He came in number 2 to McCain last time. Anytime you've run before in a Republican primary for a presidential nomination, that helps you greatly. He has a lot of money. He has a lot of support. He has the substance on the issues. He's very smart. He looks presidential. And I do think that in many cases he comes across as a good communicator. Now, not always. Sometimes he can seem a bit robotic and cold and mechanical, but he does have strengths. But here's the big problem for Romney, is that when Republican voters are thinking, who do I want to vote for? Do they really want to vote for somebody who is a tall, thin, Harvard-educated lawyer who's rich, whose biggest claim to fame is a state-run healthcare system, who has a long-time track record in favor of abortion rights and gay rights? Because that does describe Mitt Romney. Guess who else that describes? That's right, Barack Obama. I think that's the real problem for Mitt Romney, is he just seems too much like Barack Obama to a lot of Republican voters. And it's one thing to shift your positions if you're running for the U.S. Senate or governor. People don't scrutinize you that much. But at the level of presidency, they look at you so deeply, and a lot of people are just saying, how could a man as old as Mitt Romney was, in his mid-40s not that long ago, go from being pro-choice his whole life to now all of a sudden, oh, I'm Mr. Pro-life? Isn't that convenient? I think that's how it strikes a lot of people. So I'm not sure he can ever win the hearts and minds of the real conservative base of the Republican Party, but I wouldn't rule him out. He has many strong factors in his favor.
All right, well, Felicia from Answers.com is trying to build strong factors in her favor. She started doing social media videos, and she has a small bake shop, so she's doing videos on how to make cupcakes, how to make the specialties of the shop. She's a little worried about making the videos because they're not very high quality. She's just doing them in one take all the way through, no editing, none of those sorts of things. She wants to know, should she be putting these sorts of videos up, or should she wait to do one that's a little bit more produced, she says?
Well, one recommendation I'd have for you, Felicia, is go to Gary Vaynerchuk's TV Wine Library.com, and you'll see very unprofessional videos, often just shot with a flip cam. Audio might not be great, but he's giving good information about wine, and he has more than 100,000 people come to his website a day. His business has gone from $5–10 million a year in wine sales to $60 million in wine sales a year, and it's because he does a video every day. Now, he's also very active in social media. I'd recommend that you try to be active in all the local websites in your community. If you're doing a video, maybe you put a spotlight on a certain cupcake competition that's just for an elementary school, that's the closest school to your bake shop. Localize it, make it interesting and personalize it, but don't spend 6 months editing the perfect video. It's not a wise use of your time.
TJ, we'll turn now to Jennifer, who has some comments on one of the videos you made from Trachilius, made the comments on your YouTube page. Jennifer?
All praise, I hope?
Of course.
Just
of
kidding.
Course.
We want criticism and feedback from you as well.
He wants to know why, when you read a story in the media, do they mention Democrats and Republicans in the story? Why is that crucial to understanding what they're talking about?
Well, sometimes it's relevant, sometimes it isn't. If I recall his email also, his perception was that reporters only talk about a scandal when it's a Republican and not when it's a Democrat. And here's what's really going on. It's like every single sports fan, when they go to a game, will leave that game convinced that all the bad calls went against their team. Now, how could it possibly be that all the bad calls could go against your team when everybody on both teams feels that way? It's a matter of perception. And everybody wants, if there's something bad out, to try to pin it to their enemy. And anytime something bad is pinned to our side, we want to act like, oh, that doesn't exist. So I'm going to differ with the writer's premise, but we do appreciate your writing, and we do appreciate your comments. We don't want to just hear from you when you agree. We want to hear your disagreements too.
And TJ, you see this quite often with sporting events where when it's a national game, a playoff game, everyone comes back the next day saying, I can't believe that such and such announcer was against our team, or can you believe that they said this and that against our team? Everyone seems to think that the announcers, that the media are against the specific team that's playing in the game. So it's a trend that not only happens, when you're reading about something, but also when you're watching something.
Well, a lot of people like to define bias as if you're not 100% in my favor, you're biased. Well, I'm sorry, that's not bias. Any other questions we have today, Mike?
We'll end on that note, and as you mentioned, we certainly don't mind people that are biased towards us, or if they have comments that are in opposition to anything that we may write or say here at tjwalker.com. We'll look for your comments either in the chat box section, or if you're watching this on demand, feel free to leave your questions right here, and we'll be sure to answer them.
And thanks for joining us here at TJ Walker, where the only bias is in favor of strong communication. See you tomorrow.